Okay, friends, this is a special Lag BaOmer edition of The Chabura. Not just a Chabura, The Chabura. The Ramak Chabura, the Devorah Chabura. Today, we're going to begin by discussing a facet of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. This comes from the holy Sefer, Chesed Li'Avraham. Chesed Li'Avraham is from Rabbi Avram Azulai, the great-grandfather of the Chidah. Now the Chidah refers to him as his grandfather, and somebody asked him, Shaila, how are you allowed to call him your grandfather if he was your great-grandfather? And the Chidah wrote a tshuva, how he's allowed to do that. Anyway, the Chidah, of course, is buried in Har Menuchos. He was originally buried in Livorno. We might go to Livorno, and there you have the original cover of the Chidah with the names of all the Svarim he wrote. They moved him, or Mordechai Eliyahu moved him. The Chidah's, the Chesed Li'Avram, by the way, is buried in Hebron. The Chidah has relatives that are buried on Har Hazesim. The Chidah's son is buried in Ancona. Okay, this is from the Chesed Li'Avram. Some of you just came back from traveling. This guy over here was in Lithuania, Panovich, Vilna, Dvinsk, and Brisk, Mir. Now you could say I learned in Brisk. Which one? The real one. Anyway, an interesting facet of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai and many other tzaddikim is a lot of the Torah they learned was on the road during traveling. The Chesed Avram says, Sarch Ladas, we need to know, Inyan Gerushei HaTzadikim, the concept of the banishment, the travels of the righteous, Kamay Rashbi, the Chavirav, Asher Roiv Divreim Hayo B'drachim, most of their learning was on the road. Ve'ein safek shelo haya hadavar ze b'mikra. There's no doubt that this wasn't coincidental. Kiyim b'kavana. This was intentional. Asher kol masam u'matanim b'Torah haya tamid b'drachim. All of their interaction in Torah was always on the road. Why were they always on the road? Why were they always learning on the road? Why couldn't they learn in one place? What they had a travel itch. Why were they always learning on the road? Says the Chesed Avram Inyan, the reason is ki achar churban Beis Hamikdash, after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Niskarsha Hashchina, the Shechinah was chased out, Mehechal Malkoi Shaloilam, from the palace of the King of the world. Ve'ein la yichud ima, the Shechinah has no unification with Kodesh Brichu. Vihi azlas, it goes umisnaidedes, and it wanders miduch leduch, from one low spot to another, me asar la asar, from one place to another. Kamashakasav b'tikunim, sha'amar sham, dayoy la'eved, liyois karaboy. So therefore, if God is always on the road, and the master is always on the road, then the servants always have to be on the road. Now, v'nigzar al batei hatzadikim liyos chareven. So how has this come to fruition? The homes of the tzaddikim have been destroyed. So in other words, often tzaddikim are also wandering. When we were in Vilna, we learned how the Gura was always wandering. One of the reasons is to, so to speak, since the Shechinah is in Galus, and the Shechinah is on the run, is on the go, so the tzaddikim go into Galus to, so to speak, be like the Shechinah. If the Shechinah is not at home, so then the tzaddikim have to be on the road. So he says, now, regular Talmidei Chachamim don't have the koyach to mamish be on the road all the time. So he says, the Talmud, those who just learn simple halachos and Gemara, they don't have the strength to wander with the Shechinah mamish. So what they do is, they're like little chicks that they can't hop after the mother. But more eminent tzaddikim, Kain hatzadikim sharei mari Kabbalah, Mikubalim yesh lahem kayach liyas noidedim me'asar la'asar miduch l'duch. They have the power to wander from place to place. Al kain Rashbi b'chaveru of all v'sham. Therefore, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai and his friends, shahayu oiskim mechachmas HaKabbalah, who engaged in the secret mysticism of the Torah, hayu nitradim mimakom lamakom. They wandered from place to place. V'hayu migurashim mibateim, and they allowed themselves to be chased out of their homes. Kedei liyos merkava lemalchus, to be the chariot of the Shechinah. Besoid galusa. In other words, God is on the road. After the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, God's in galus. He's traveling. He's always, he's always wandering. So the wandering Shechinah needs a chariot. So the Talmidei Chachamim, the tzaddikim, who go and they're on the road, they become the chariot to the Shechinah. It's like the Shechinah left its home. In the Beis Hamikdash, there's a concept of the Shechinah and Kodesh HaBrichu. The Shechinah is a certain manifestation of Hashem, which is not evident when the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed and it, so to speak, goes into galus. So the Shechinah has no chariot, and the tzaddik, and now only mikubalim have the strength to be able to do this. But it would come and say, if a person has to travel, has to go on the road, they should be mechavein that Hashem is on the road, Hashem is wandering and traveling, and therefore we want to be the merkava to the Shechinah. Through this wandering, so by the Gra going into Galus and wandering, he was zoiched that the Shechinah rested on him. That's a good plug for our trips, Come on the trip, you'll become the merkava to the Shechinah. That's a good one.
Is it only when you're suffering, or is it?
So we're going to see in the Ramak, okay?
So the Shechinah, the Gemara says the Shechinah only rests on someone who's...
No.
A couple of things.
Couple things, yeah. Now, look. Ve'inyan zu lav dafka la tzadikim shem b'chayim. This is not only the righteous who are alive. Amnam hu gam ken l'neshamayis ha-tzadikim. Even the souls of tzadikim, shehim lamala b'menucha, who are at rest. Okay, so this is the idea of the Chesed of Rabbi Avram Azulai, about the reason why we find that great tzaddikim like the Rashbi were always said most of their Torah traveling. Most of the Torah of the Rashbi was said on the road, because just like the Ribono Shel Olam, so to speak, is in Galus, so to emulate him and to become the merkava to the Shechinah, the tzaddikim also went on the road. Now, what does this have to do with our Chabura? What are we learning? Talmud Devorah. Who is it written by? Ramak. So the Talmud Devorah is a nice little Sefer. There's another nice little Sefer. It's called Sefer Gerushin. Sefer Gerushin. You may never see this ever again in your life. Okay? This is not a common Sefer. This is, Noitzar Chachma, you'll see it. But I'm saying as a living Sefer, a breathing Sefer. The publisher of the Sefer says the reason it's called Gerushin is because they went out into Galus from the Beis Medrash, into the fields, into the forest, to learn L'chavay the Shechinah and the Galus, like the Rashbi. Said everything they were mechadesh in their exile is in this book, Sefer Gerushin. So tonight's Ramak is in honor of the Rashbi, where the Ramak followed what the Chesed Avram says was the mode of operation of the Rashbi, to go into Galus, to emulate the Shechinah, and to become the merkava to the Shechinah. The Ramak wrote an entire work that he innovated on the road. And in that sense, I want you to open up Talmud Devorah, Parak Tes. What?
I need a real one.
You need the real one, yeah? Come, you could come around.
I'll try.
Okay? Parak Tes, second paragraph. Parak Tes is about the midah of Malchus, which is Shechinah. Okay? Oid Shnia. You see that in the second paragraph in Parak Tes? You have that? Oid Shnia? Oid Shnia. another aspect of Malchus, Perishu b'Sefer HaZayar, the Zohar explains, Vi chashuva ma'od, it's very important. Yigla mi makoim l'makoim l'shem shamayim. You should exile yourself from place to place for the sake of heaven. Uvazeh yasem merkava el hashchina hagoyla. And by doing so, like the Chesed Avram says, you'll become the chariot to the Shechinah that is in Golos. Now, the Ramak was saying you should go into Golos. Even, let's say you live in a fancy house in the 5 towns. You have 3 cars, you have a weekday car, you have a chalamoid car, you have a car you don't drive, you have a 4-car garage, you live in a luxury vehicle, and the Ramak would say, leave your house, leave the 5 towns, and go wander in the fields in New Jersey, in the rain. Just leave your house. Now, we're not in the Madriga to do that, but there are times in life that you have to go, you're in Gullus, I don't know, your sister's getting married, and you have to go to Shabbos Sheva Brachas in some bad neighborhood somewhere, and they put you up in a house, and there's bad AC, and it's stuffy in the room. So you say, look, I'm in Gullus to Shabbos. I'm in Gullus, Sometimes you get married, you have to go to a relative that you didn't want to go to. Yeah? You're in Gullus. Yeah, you should think, I'm in Gullus. And the Shechinah is in Gullus, so I'm becoming the Merkava of the Shechinah. There are times in life you have to go places you don't want to go. Think, okay, I'm in Gullus now. Now, think about yourself. When Jews travel, sometimes we like to take a lot of stuff. We like to take a lot of creature comforts, We take, I don't know what. They take their, what?
Neck pillows.
Yeah, the neck pillow and the fan and the slippers and the fuzzy pajamas and I don't know what people take. But, people take things that make them comfortable. But if the reason you're going into Golos is like the Shechinah goes into Golos, well, when the Shechinah goes into Golos, he doesn't bring a couch. The Shechinah doesn't bring any creature comforts. So therefore, when you go into Golos, don't take everything you need, because if you, so to speak, keep it simple, you're more closely emulating Hashem, who when he goes into Golos, he doesn't take stuff with him. He says, "Uvezeh yaseh merkava l'shechina hagoyla." By doing so, you're going to become the chariot to the Shechinah. V'yidam ha'atzma, you should think to yourself, "Harei ani golisi," I am exiled now. V'harei klei tashmishi imi, I'm bringing all my vessels with me. Ma yaseh kavoid gavaya. What should the honorable one on high do? Shagol Shechinah v'chelea ina ima. The Shechinah was exiled, but she doesn't have her kelim with her. Shechasru b'sibas hagalus, they were lost because of the galus. V'lazeh, with this thought, Yemayid b'kela b'chol yechalta, you should diminish your things that you bring with you as much as possible. Kedachsiv klei goyla asilach. Basically, you know how we always pack? We pack a million things just in case we're going to need it. Because why? We don't want to, heaven forbid, be uncomfortable. Now, sometimes we might actually need stuff, like you pack medicine because you might need it. But some stuff like we bring, heaven forbid, we should be like not 100% luxuriously comfortable. There's an idea, okay, like leave something at home and, tolerate that you don't have, your fuzzy pillow that you like to sleep on, Don't take your teddy bear with you when you go away for Shabbos, You could leave your teddy bear at home, even though you're much more comfortable with it. Why? Because it's a way of, so to speak, commiserating with the Shechinah. The Shechinah doesn't bring his comfort stuff with him. Okay. Kidachsiv, klei goyla asilach. Make for yourself the kelim of exile. V'yachnia levavoi bagoyla. Subdue your heart in the exile. V'yiskasher b'Torah. And when you travel, davka, you should tie yourself to the Torah. V'az Shechinah imay, then the Shechinah is with you. V'yaseh la'atzmei gerushan. Make yourself like you're banished. V'yizgarish mibeis menuchasei tamid. And, so to speak, you should do this regularly. Like who did it? Look what we're doing. We're reading in the Ramak, in the Talmud Devorah, on Lag Boimer. V'yasa kederach shahayu misgarshim Rabbi Shimon v'chaverav mi beisam v'oiskem b'Torah. Follow in the ways of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Bar yoichai nimshachta. Right? The Ramak is citing him. Who they were exiled from the house and they were Isaac and Torah. And imagine if you could drag your feet from place to place. Meaning, when you travel, you should do it by foot. B'li sus v'rechav, without your Porsche or your Lamborghini or your horse. Alav nemar sivrai. Instead of Sivrei al Hashem Elokav, which means you hope to Hashem, Pershu by Lashon Shever, break yourself for the honor of Hashem, Shuhu Meshaber Gufay, that you break your body l'chvayid gavaya. So, I don't know that we're on the Madrega to call up your parents and say, Dad, Mom, I'm moving out, I'm going to be wandering. Where are you going? Lithuania. No, that's not a good idea necessarily. But sometimes you gotta be in situations that are not the most comfortable. You'll have to go to some boring graduation. So you're sitting through canned speeches for 2 hours. So think, I'm going in Galus now. And just I'm serious by the way, the Shechinah is in Galus. So I'm emulating the Shechinah. I'm becoming, by sitting here in this auditorium listening to nonsense, I'm being mechavein to be a merkava to the Shechinah, and this is the path of Rishon Barichai. And the Chesed Avram says this line that Kol masa'am umatanim b'Torah haya tamid b'drachim. All their learning was on the road. Roiv divrayim haya b'drachim. Most of their learning was on the road. So at least when you travel, you should try to connect yourself up.
You mean in Zaire, most of the stories are?
Yeah, there's they're walking, they're wandering, they're in the fields, the forest, the sadeh. So when we do this, we're emulating Hashem, we're becoming the Merkava to Shechinah. So this is a limit in Talmud Devorah, the 9th parak, but it's kedai to learn it on Lag BaOmer. Shkayach everyone, Agun Shabbos, and we'll see everyone, Bez Hashem, next week.